Welcome to Elite 6 Think Tank, an open discussion group with business owners who share their knowledge, experience and skills. Welcome along to Elite 6 meeting, whatever number it is, who cares, who counts these days anyway. We've got a lovely crowd of people here. I've just cut my thumb, the stitches have come out and there's blood everywhere, so this is why we don't video the podcast. Today we were having a lovely topic of, you won't know what it is.
Thank you, resilience.
Oh, okay.
Only because I heard it before.
Yeah, so building resilience more than resilience. We actually have done a think tank meeting before on resilience, and there's normally a big screen up here with a mind map, which we've stopped doing that, because Helen used to have to be the...
I got sick of it.
You got sick of doing it.
Yeah.
But if you had resilience, I was thinking about an example of resilience. I'm going to use Elite 6 as I often do. We've had 4 break-offs of Elite 6 since it's been going in the last 10 plus years. You think that would stop most wee companies? You know, where people keep starting up their own business networking things? But did it stop us? I can't kill it.
Probably can actually. Yeah.
So
I won't go into that.
is that, I mean, here with a bleeding thumb, for goodness sake, and you're still here. But is that the definition of resilience? It's something you can't kill.
Thanks. Well, it's pushing ahead, even if the chips are down, I guess. Resilience.
Yeah.
Pushing through the hard times.
Does resilience make you stronger? Are companies that have resilience built into them better, worse? Quiet the cheap seats, please. For Jason, who doesn't know how this works, we have 3 balls. And if you want to speak, you put your hand up and give you a ball. And then if you want to speak after, then you put your hand up and you get another ball. If you want to speak after that person, you get another ball. You get it? And then if you start talking too long, I take the balls out of your hand. That's the...
What if you want to do 4 times?
He's a lawyer. Oh, afternoon, sir. Yeah. No, he's got to sit here.
No, come here.
I'm charging. Alright, so we were talking about resilience. And something you can't kill, does that mean it's got good resilience?
Yeah.
Oh, and James
Yes,
has
it
got a
does.
ball.
Yes. So resilience, you've got to build that into your business. As your business builds, you've got to take into consideration if it's going extremely well, that it's not necessarily going to be going extremely well forever. I've got a really good track record going backwards, but I can never tell what's going to come from forward. So the thing to do is to build up your cash flow so that you're at a point whereby you can carry on running for 2 or 3 or 4 months without having to worry about having a huge drop back in your turnover. So that kind of resilience is building yourself a foundation whereby there'll always be a period where your business is not going to go particularly well. So if you can work your way through that and have enough cash flow, whatever, to run through that, that's good resilience with your business.
Right.
I think that's financial.
Yeah.
Hold that.
Sorry. I think that's financial, and there must be actually other aspects of resilience in the company. Financials are one of them, I think. So maybe we need to break it down and understand the different aspects of resilience.
Well, I think it's brilliant. There is a guy I'm thinking of, he might turn up, but he's been trying to get his business going for 2 years and he hasn't sold anything. But he keeps pushing forward. And why does he do that? Why doesn't he just give up?
Because he's got passion for his business.
He believes in his business, yeah.
He's grateful for what he's got and not ungrateful for what he doesn't.
Just because you got here early doesn't mean you can command the ball whenever you want, Rob.
You know,
Really.
I watched that at night.
Believe me.
Is he early today?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Did you want? Yeah, Rob was early today.
I thought I was safe today.
Rob Worley.
Oh, you want me to talk now? There were other people at the ball. I was just
Sorry, no.
contemplating that sometimes we press on and we press on, we press on, and it could be passion. I don't actually think it is always passion. It could be that we've made an investment and we don't want to lose the investment, the investment of time, our money, ourselves, or whatever. You know, like if you've gone round and you've said, hey, I'm going to start a business, it's going to cost me 100k, I'm going, you know, to rule the world, da 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 da. In a year, 2 years, 5 years after, we're not any further along. I think that resilience is the act of keeping going, but doesn't necessarily mean that we should be keeping going.
Yeah, I agree with that. Nigel.
In a discussion with my other half a while back, she said to me one day when I was talking about a topic, she said, "Aren't you blinkered?" And I said, "No, I'm focused." And for me, that came down to I've got the bull by the horn, so to speak, and I believe in it, so I'm not letting go of the story.
Yeah. Okay. Is that why a captain will go down with a ship?
No, I think he has to. I think, yeah, that's his job. Yeah, he has to be the last on that ship. Yeah, job description, he signed up for it.
So people's experience. I did think about this meeting before I got here, believe it or not, before I cut my thumb. But I was thinking of asking everyone where was the lowest point that they felt they've ever been in their business. And somebody really suggested something really good. Give David Clarkson a clap on the way in here. Congratulations, David Clarkson. A public speaker trainer who knows that who's never late. It's first time ever. So yeah, I think the lowest point you could ever be, the worst scenario you ever think of, never eventuates. So I'm just thinking, if you guys ever had a point in your business that you thought that, should I give this up? And when you think about that point, why didn't you give it up? And why didn't you go get a job?
Because that would be the lowest point.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot people had the ball. Jason, you can talk after Helen and Sahara, and then you have a turn. Like kindergarten, really.
For me, in the early part of my business, I just kept going and going, and I knew it wasn't really going anywhere, but I just knew I had something that would go somewhere eventually. So my drive keeps me going, and that to me is my resilience. I never gave up, and I could have quite easily, but I just kept pushing forward because I knew I could make something of it, which I have in the end.
Okay, and Sahara, nice loud voice. Practice.
Oh, well, I've got two things. One, the answer to your question, the lowest point, was I was working with a woman who was in a really difficult relationship, and I built confidence up, and she was starting to voice what she needed in the relationship and to look at them out. And her husband totally and utterly stalked me for 3 months, phoning the house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Sorry about that, I didn't mean to.
And at that point you think, gosh, I work from home, my kids are in this house. That was a real low point for me. That was just like, how can I protect these boundaries? And I was very lucky that I had 3 policemen on my books and they took care of it for me. But that does sometimes become the low point because you have to consider that security. It's like I have to do self-defense classes every 3 years because I want to make sure that if a man does come in here and he's got anger issues, I need to be able,
self-defense training right there. Okay, that's good networking.
But I have to do that because what if I am in a fix? I'm out there on my own during the day, or if I've got an evening appointment, I'm there on my own. So that tends to be my low point, is the potential threat.
But where it could go, because you're getting up close and personal with people and you're hearing their most intimate stuff, and then all of a sudden they have a bond where you're their go-to person when life goes to...
At least 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, guys.
Not coming to see you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And
And the second one?
proposals. It's all part of the job.
Sounds very glamorous, really.
Do you keep a spreadsheet with all the names?
Check whether they've got money first.
It's a different sheet.
Capable of making my own.
Right.
No, the privacy aspect of what I offer, I don't keep anything online, or everything's paper driven and it's all sealed. On the point of resilience, if you don't mind me just...
Yeah, big loud voice though.
I think resilience has a really broad view on how you work. I mean, we talked about financial resilience, but I'm also thinking from the resilience of actually to stand by what you believe you're worth. I have a lot of clients who come up with such incredible hardships and stories, but I am not a government-based agency and I don't do free work. I have pro bono work, then I have a number of set clients a year, and I do sponsorship work where I actually sponsor the client. But outside of that, no, my rate is my rate, and it's having the resilience and confidence to stand by that, and that can be tough sometimes when you hear the stories that you hear.
No, thank you. We'll go Nick, and then we'll go Jason, and then I'm going to go back to breaking it down to different types of resilience. So you think about orchestrating that conversation.
Probably go Jason first thing because I was about to do that.
Oh, okay then. All right, let's do Jason. Make it good, Jason. First words out.
I don't know if any of you read in today's. I read stuff every morning. That's my routine. And bedding company in Auckland. It was a liquidators report, and it was why this company failed.
Just speak up a bit, Jason.
Why this company failed.
Is that Sleepyhead?
It was no, it was
Beds
a
R Us.
smaller bed. It was rebranded
Yeah.
from Beds R Us. So liquidators report confirmed, totally insolvent.
Are they
$1
just
million
having a rest?
Yeah, they should have had a rest because it was exactly the scenario that I've seen so many countless times over the years. It was a company that they did have blind faith in their business. They had blind faith in themselves, and that faith was totally ill-founded. There was no financial control of the company. They'd been operating at a loss because, frankly, they'd been selling their product for less than its true cost for many years. That finally caught out, and a huge number of consumers have been called out, as well as the directors, who they'll be gone. So resistance and blind faith are not the same thing in my opinion. So resilience and blind faith. You can resist. You can resist reality, but that's not the same as resilience. It's not a substitute for looking at it, taking advice, looking at things objectively and deciding, is this business actually viable or not? Resilience, if we're talking about personal resilience, it's the actual ability to actually look at what you're doing and thinking, what I'm doing today is not making me a profit. And monetary profit isn't anything, but in any business it's a key KPI in my view to actually be making some money. And they were going backwards.
If I was a long distance runner, I was doing the coast to coast, and I had resilience versus perseverance. You know, what would you rather have when running a race? Because resilience to me is when you fall over and you damage your leg and you get back up again, I presume, and then you carry on running. But perseverance is where that pain hurts like a bitch, but you keep running.
I define resilience as, and the topic is building resilience. The resilience is the attribute whereby you have set yourself up to be able to survive times which are not so good.
Contingency plan?
That's you know, but at the same time, you've got to have know where you're going. Ultramarathon runner. There's the other thing I read on stuff this morning. Fell over, died a few hundred metres before the end of an ultramarathon. Well, that's not resilience. So, and I see the same with businesses. You know that they.
Do we as a country allow for businesses to get into that situation of a bedding company? Because you hear every other blinking day about a business that's gone bankrupt, and then the next week they're blinking operation again.
My own personal experience. I worked for a couple of years for the Department of Trade and Industry in the UK, dealing with insolvency investigations and taking very harsh steps against directors. If you had two companies that failed, you were going to be investigated, and you could expect quite a decent banding order. New Zealand, we do nothing.
Yeah. New Zealand, they end up going to
5
Australia.
years, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
No. There's no real. There's a handful of directors banned a year in New Zealand.
And then they go to Australia and trade there.
Yeah.
That's what happened to that blue chip.
The enforcement in New Zealand is so minor.
Yeah, but how do you handle that when, you know, I don't know about the rest of you, but I know I've certainly heard on numerous occasions about these entrepreneurs who go through business after business after business, and finally, after maybe 10 or 12 or even more stumbles, they hit the right one and they go like
But in the meantime, how many people, I think
I agree with you,
before,
What's
we've
the
got a
trail of
trade
destruction
company
behind them?
Yeah.
that went bankrupt, put a VAT on the beginning of their name, went bankrupt again, then changed the first word of the name, and they're now trading again. And in the meantime, how many
Disrupting.
thousands of dollars have they taken, or other businesses as a result? And it's, that's not resilience, that's cruelty.
Yeah.
It's criminal.
So just Nick was going to try to categorise some of this. With did anyone get any ideas on that? Like different types of resilience. That, I think that's what we're discussing, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So if we did different types, we're talking financial resilience.
And then I was going to take it back to a purely practical sense. If you lost your trading premises, or if you lost access to your data, or do you actually have a plan for that? And is that then resilience, that you can still trade even though you have no premises, or even though you've lost your server, or so purely operational resilience as well? Could you still trade if your key person who knows everything about your business, because there's always one, wasn't there? Could
So
you
I'm thinking
still trade?
vulnerabilities now. What's your vulnerability? What's stop you? I said I had a question this week was if I were to write you out a cheque and tell you had to walk away from your business for 2 weeks, how much money would you want me to give you? And in my business, if I walked away for 2 weeks, it would probably kill it. You know, so in some other businesses said, oh, it didn't worry me at all. Give me hammer up, just give me a cheque. Sorry about the blood. Yeah.
Just following up on that. I think the best form of resilience is generally, and you may refer to it a little bit, about being strong when there's a crisis. But I think the best form of resilience to build into your being and your business is to have resilience in what the market's doing and how you're operating yourself within your industry, to be strong enough not to get into a problem. So if you have resilience and you have your blinkers either off or focused, I think if you can structure your business and yourself to have resilience to combat the market as it is, we'll be able to refine your structure, the way you operate, and your being means that you don't get into those problems. So it's like, it's not a counter for an issue, but it's actually a structural integrity that you have to avoid getting into an issue.
David.
It's interesting. I'm coming late to the conversation, so I don't know what was said first off. But if anything, this city should be regarded as resilient city, because if you have a look at it, more people who are required to be resilient here than probably any other time in recent years. And with that in mind, I just wonder whether resilience isn't an actual fact about having that inner strength to be able to cope with what happens to us. That old, it's not what happens to you that counts, it's how you take it or how you react to it. And so I think when we're thinking about resilience, maybe that's sort of a good place to really focus on. Just
What are we focusing on? Did you get that? You going to talk about that?
Yeah, yes.
That was a good topic. Thank you.
In my degree, we had to write about scenario planning and planning contingencies, and it's a really boring topic. It's very uncomfortable because if you take your business, you're operating today, and you're here, right? You're aiming to be there. You're always aiming to be larger. Contingency planning and scenario planning is basically saying where you are at today, what could possibly go wrong, and to have a look at everything that could hit you, and have you got a plan. So, you know, like with your description about Christchurch, you know, like we've had earthquakes, and obviously, you know, like a massacre and stuff. The contingency or scenario planning is that if there's another earthquake, are we prepared? And of course, you know, like we hear all the time, you know, like do you have, you know, like enough to like survive if you're not able to like get out, like your water and all this kind of stuff. I would say that most of us aren't resilient unless we have to be, and we only plan for the emergency after the emergency's already occurred. And I would say that to make yourself or your entity resilient, you have to plan assuming an emergency could occur anywhere in your business at any time.
So that's your risk analysis, basically.
Risk analysis and to plan, like what are you going to do when that happens.
What's some common
before
things?
it happens.
What's some common things that happen in a business? Cash flow, running out of money, people not paying you.
You lose a big client.
Yep, I had that once. That really hurt. I had to sell my house. It was like my mortgage gone. It was like, oh, damn. Couldn't afford dumb dames. So yeah, so is that? So do you lose sleep over that? If you, how do you just? Because it is about building it.
You can't, and I want to go back to what David was saying because I completely agree with that. I think in order to have resilience in your business, you need to have resilience in yourself, and I think so if we look at it, building resilience, you've got to make sure that you've got those network of people around you that are going to be there.
At least 6.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how I got through the earthquakes.
Is it right? I didn't know you. Oh.
But no, I mean, I remember after the earthquakes, everyone saying to me, I was dealing with the earthquakes within the business. My own place was fine, but I decided that was the best time to get separated and divorced and be a single mum and blah, 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 blah. And people saying to me, how did you cope? And I went, well, I didn't have any choice. I had a business to run, so I got up and I went to work.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the support of everything around me.
Yeah.
And so no matter what it is in the business, so long as you've got the people that you can talk to and slap you around the face if you need to, just to move on. So it all comes back to...
Yeah. And I always say, I never underestimate the power of having good people around you. I mean, that's really kept me on the straight and narrow as well. I mean, that's what we're doing here. I mean, we're showing genuine interest to others. You don't really care about my thumb, do you guys?
No.
Chris.
And of course you need to have self-defence and be able to...
Yeah, go James.
When I first came here, we talked about earlier in the week that it was going to be about resilience. My first thought was, as I mentioned right at the start, was financial resilience for the business. But with everyone talking, it's sort of become more apparent to me that the other types of resilience and personal resilience, like we've been talking about, is to have people not wait till something happens, but have people like lots of friends and family and stuff that you can go to and talk to. But there's two other things that where resilience really shows up is that by having a plan, and the big secret is having a plan. And one of them is a lot of people are drowning at the beach because they don't know what to do. So if you know what to do and you go out into the sea and you get caught in a rip, then you're going to survive. If you don't know what to do, you're not. And it's not that difficult to work out what to do. So that's resilience by having a plan. And it's the same, which on the TV they're pushing at the moment quite a lot about getting out of your house in a fire. Same thing, resilience. Okay, if you know what to do, you're going to have your plan in place beforehand, and when your house catches fire, you're going to find your way out. But if you don't know what to do, you're not resilient, you don't have a plan, you're probably not going to get out.
Yeah, I had to share a personal story. Sorry, guys. After the earthquakes, I was telling people this morning, but there was an aftershock. I just saw a friend who, I won't say get out of prison, but he did, and hadn't seen him for 2.5 years, and it was quite an emotional thing to see him again, see him get back on his track. And then an aftershock hit, and I remember walking from probably about 500 metres, everyone was coming out of the buildings in the city, and they were standing around, they were upset, some people were crying. I got in my brand new V8 car, and then I thought, I wonder how my mum is, because I know she would have been evacuated from the mall she works in, and I thought I'd ring her. So I got my cell phone, I'm driving down the road on my cell phone, pulled up at the lights, and my mum, this guy taps on the window, who's a homeless guy, tells me to get off my phone. And I wound in the window, and I don't think I've said anything like that to a person for a long time. And then my mum answers the phone, and she's, hi, how are you, Danny? And I couldn't speak for about 45 seconds. And I just couldn't get any words out of my head. And all of a sudden, all the emotion of everything around me, would have been a good time probably to pull the car over and just sit there for a while. But then I went and got help. So I drove around town trying to find a counsellor to talk to. And then I found somebody, and I turned up there, and it was just, the whole process was stupid. 2 days later, I found the right guy to talk to. And I told him everything that was going on. I said, you're normal, you just need to, you've got, your rubbish bin's a bit full, lad, go have a holiday. I go fishing, that's what I do, he said. And I'm going next week off and I won't see you for a week because I'm going fishing. But the point is, what I'm thinking is, yes, everything caved into my life, but I didn't give up. I had a process around, right, I need to talk to somebody, I need to, talk to my mum, I need to, help other people, and I did all these other things, and I had a plan. And I think that's what I'm talking about, is the resilience that we need in business. Is why do we have people who sit at home by themselves trying to make their business work, and it's not going to work, it's not feasible? Why don't they share that? And that's what we've got here. If somebody sits here with an idea that's no good, we probably can't help ourselves. We have to help them, tell them off and wake them up. And that's where we care about each other, isn't it? Anyone else got anything? Oh, sorry, didn't realise you had a ball. Chris?
I'd say it's interesting listening to you. I've always looked at resilience as very separate. There's a lot of talk around strategy and planning and risk assessment and things, but in my mind, resilience is more of a personal thing in yourself, and it's a mental capability to be able to handle the situation or navigate what's going on. You can have all the best strategies and plans in the world, and you have no control though of external factors. And this happened, last year when my business failed, we had no control. We had all the plans and strategy in place to be able to go forward, but in the end we were sunk by other people not doing things that they should be doing. And so you've got to be able to be resilient and navigate that. It becomes more of a personal inner strength as opposed to necessary strategy and planning and risk assessment. They're all needed. Just because you know something doesn't mean you're resilient in it. You just got to actually be able to navigate that whole situation. So I've always seen resilience as it's more of a mental and strength. But in your business, resilience is, in my mind, it's more your culture. Is your culture that you've built within your business between you and your employees, is that resilient to external factors, to media attention to what's going on in your industry, as opposed to necessarily your business resilience, which is more about smart financial planning, smart operational planning, data backups, data access, all those kind of things. That's all planning. But is your culture within the business actually resilient to be able to handle customer complaints, or being able to pivot and change direction? Is it agile? Is that built into your culture? That's the resilience that I see, not necessarily strategy and planning.
That's good. Right, so people's experience with resilience, that's what we normally discuss the first half. So what's some practical steps that we could do that aren't rocket science to have resilience? I think sharing what's happening in your business is really important myself. Rob?
Yeah, I heard Chris essentially totally destroy my initial comment before.
Again, that happens. There's a pattern there, isn't it?
But I will be resilient, and I'll bounce back onto idea number 2. And that is that I thought if we weren't talking about people or businesses but materials, and we were talking about a resilient material, it would be elastic. It would be stretchable, pliable, etc. And I was thinking when Chris was saying that, if I was on a phone call to like a customer or supplier or whoever, and it wasn't going very well, I may have a tendency as a human to get off that call and react and go, but if I'm considering that I want to be resilient and like elastic and pliable and flexible and stuff, I will recognise how I'm feeling at the moment and then allow that to go and then think, okay, right, so now I have some new information, what am I able to do now after I've calmed down?
But you
So
got
I
off
think
the
it's-
phone rather than reacting whilst you were still on the phone with
Well-
yourself.
Well, I was just speaking off the top of my head, but yeah, there's quite right.
So you did have a plan.
Resilience is to recognise whatever the new thing has happened in our environment and to calm down and deal with it.
Yeah. You have to calm down a lot, don't you, Rob?
Just like if I was on a rip.
All right, Helen. Oh, you did have the ball first.
Just make the analogy to the RIP. I like the concept of the whole resilient culture that you put in, but making the analogy to the RIP, I was in agreement with what you were saying about risk management and planning, and you did contradict it, but the two of them both have the two are hand in hand, and the concept of the RIP, and if you know what to do in a RIP, then when you get in the RIP, you know how to survive. Resilience is also having, if you can be more resilient, you can learn to look at the water and understand that there's a rip there and not get into the rip. So by having cultural resilience, it may avoid having to deal with the issues and getting in them. And there are outside forces which you can control less, but if there is future planning there, then for the ones that you are unforeseen, you might foresee them in advance by being a little bit more aware, but there is that resilience that can mean that you get yourself in less issues where you may need to be resilient. And that's a cultural thing I think would certainly help avoiding that.
Thank you. Helen, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With our online businesses, Jenny and I we've had to become very resilient to some of the customer emails we get. They are so nasty, and you sit there and you just go, why am I doing this? And you know why you're doing it, because we are making some good money out of it, but it's these people are just so rude. And at first I used to say to Danny, oh, I don't know how to reply to this person, they're just so nasty. And at first I'd get my back up and I'd send an email back where the emotion had come out from me, and he said, don't do that, you can't do that. So then so then he said, become a robot, just get the standard emails. So we both got a number of standard emails that we send off, and it is a lot better now. But I am the sort of person that a please and a thank you and just addressing an email nicely and not, being really nasty to the person goes a long way for me. And so I do take it on board, and I've had to become really resilient because it just eats you up inside. These people are so nasty. And I definitely have become resilient in sending these emails back and just, robot emails. But it's hard. You do take it personally, and
Come and work with me for a couple of weeks, I'll harden you.
Yeah. Actually, harden up's a good story.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that one. Nigel.
Just thinking through the last few comments, starting with James now, I think in some ways we can define resilience as the nature of the reaction when something happens, can't we? All the planning, everything you can have there, but in some ways it's just that moment afterwards something happens. What sort of mode do you flick into at that point could be part of defining of resilience.
No, I quite like that, so it's a reaction you get from the situation. And then it's here.
One of the interesting things that, from what you're saying there, Nigel, that immediately comes to mind is how the military operate and how the military people are trained, particularly army people. They're trained with a serious discipline whereby they do before they think. So that you've got a whole big bunch of people there that if they stop to think about what they're going to be told to do, they're probably not going to do it, because chances are they might die. But if they're trained properly, they will go and do it, and they won't think about that. They'll be solely focused on doing it. So what that means is that you need not just to have a plan in place, but you need to know that plan so well that when something happens, you don't have to think, that you will automatically go into a reactive state whereby you sort the problem out. That takes a lot of training.
That's actually a really good analogy. I like
That's
that.
the point. It's a training.
Yep,
Train yourself to that point.
Yeah, and that's where the military train to that point.
So resilience by definition has to have this training component, doesn't it?
That's how you react.
That's how you react.
Yeah. So you've totally, we'll go to Sierra, but so you've totally changed the focus from I'm going to die to make sure we do this right.
I was going to agree with Helen. There is a certain amount of being thick-skinned with your job.
Yeah.
Being thick-skinned, one, because you've got irate clients or whatever they decide to vent. Being thick-skinned, separating business from personal. Because I would often get people that become acquaintances and then the free therapy So you have to be kind of thick-skinned to say, actually, I can book you for an appointment. So it's being thick-skinned is a number of dimensions.
You're not charging by the hour, are you, Jason?
But actually, if I may, there's quite a good point there though, about this ability to separate your professional from your personal.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well, and that's, we're sitting on the sofa doing emails last night at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and we share the funny ones. So I said, try not to share the negative ones because it's not a nice way to go to bed, feeling that somebody's pissed off with you,
Yeah.
David Clarkson.
Just going back to what James said, and also in the military, what they used to call before you had a problem, when you were approaching a problem, is you did what they called an appreciation, which meant you went through a series of steps to analyse a situation in front of you. Okay? And that then enabled you to cope with the situation and some of the ramifications that you foresaw coming out of the problem and the way you're going to approach it. So that helped you with your resilience. The other thing that helped you with resilience is you've all seen the soldiers marching up and down and doing the exercises that you see soldiers doing, like the rifle drill and the reacting to orders and all that sort of thing. And it was that constant repetition that reinforced in people's mind how they reacted to things. And if in fact we get used to thinking those sorts of things through, it just means that when we actually hit the situation, it can help us. And that's where visualising around the things that are maybe in front of us that we're going to face will help us in those sorts of situations. Seeing ourselves in there, actually reacting to it, and what would we do and how would we do it. And having done that in advance helps us a hell of a lot with our actions going forward. And in terms of the toughness thing, it's the old story. The more we do of it, the better we get at it. And that means that we're able to be more resilient in those circumstances.
Yeah, can you share resilience is something I'm thinking about.
Well, yeah, I guess that's exactly what I have done. I've got one member of staff who's been with me for maybe 3.5 years now, and
Poor girl.
I know, and she's just booked a holiday for October 2021, so that's a good sign. But I would say she probably cried 5 out of every 5 working days when she first started with me, because she took everything on board. She started with me as a receptionist, so it was more dealing with the tenants and their sob stories and all the rest of it, and so she would be crying about somebody else's situation, which would stop her being able to deal with it and just, make her way through it. And now, I've said to her, you can't lose sleep and you can't stress about something that you haven't actively partaken in. So, yes, you can get upset and angry if you've made a mistake and you've cost me money or whatever, but if it's outside of your control, you just can't take it personally. And so over the last 3.5 years, and now she is a property manager, so she's involved in a lot more of it, we probably get tears once a week. But maybe once a fortnight now. But it has actually been really interesting seeing her develop, and I know that it's also helped her personal life and things that she's dealing with.
Spending 6 hours in the emergency department last Sunday, watching the resilience of the doctors and nurses. That was, and they had to literally take all the emotion out of it. And I was a bit of a character and we had a bit of fun, but they were very focused on what they were doing, especially when you had a needle stuck in here. But I think that's the separation of emotion, take emotion out of it. It's not easier said than done though. So anyone got any tips?
I was just going to, backing up, you guys obviously with the martial arts school and self-defense courses and things, we drill the guys and girls all the time through different possible scenarios, so that if something happens, they can react, they can assess it, and then they can act accordingly to whatever they need to. And it's interesting when you watch people build that resilience around when they first turn up and they have to do something, maybe stand in front of the crowd, or have to come and perform a technique, and they fail. And then they come back and they try again and try again. They build the resilience that it's no longer an issue for them to come out and stand in front of them. They build that confidence up. They understand And we're doing exercises in self-defense courses where you stand in front of someone and you scream in their face to see how you would react when someone's actually in your face screaming at you, because you have to be able to react and assess the situation on whether or not you actually need to knock their lights out or just need to step back or what's
I
going
need to
on.
not laugh in their face.
Or laugh
Really
at them,
wants them off.
But having that resilience is like you were talking about before, being elastic and being able to react and assess and then flex according to what it was there, because how you react to the situation is different every time depending on what is the factors involved in that situation. You know, whether it's an aftershock, it's a major earthquake, or it's a complete leveller. It's very different reactions, but our ability to assess that and then determine our own actions from there, depending on that, we're now hopefully all well better prepared than we were before, because we've had to face that and we've had to go through it, and so we're now far more resilient to an event like that of varying degrees.
So is it like a fire drill that they do once a year? I mean, I did a first aid course after a guy nearly died, and then I drove the car down the road a 3 weeks ago, and the guy crashes and flips over the bike, and I'm the first responder there, and all of a sudden you think, oh, that's right, now what do I've got to do? You know, because I haven't practiced that situation, thank goodness. But I mean, then, and that's why they do fire drills. So maybe how do you test resilience in your company? Do you take all the money that you have in your bank and have a zero bank account and see how you get on for a couple of weeks? Or do what's some things you could do?
I think that a lot of this conversation reminds me of the courses I used to run in Auckland, right? People stutter. And what we would do is we would drill the technique, which is a very basic technique, over and over and over, 14 hours a day for 3.5 days. And at the end of it, in fact, halfway through it, you are so tired, you become completely automated about, I'm going to inhale, speak off the top of the breath, exhale, pause. Inhale, speak off the top of that. And you just do it completely automatically. So that when you go outside after 2 days and you strike up 100 conversations, you know that you're going to get a lot of varying reactions from 100 people that have had a stranger approach them. Right? From really interested to totally disinterested, and you were told go straight into technique. Right? And before you even approach that person, get your breathing right. Go down the chest, establish and maintain eye contact. And we've got this whole drill and mantra that we'd go into, and you'd almost chant it over and over and over. But hearing what David and James were saying is that you are taking, right, or at least the Army have, and in self-defense courses, you are taking your experience of what could possibly happen in these situations, and you're creating a response for every situation that could come up. You're practicing it so that when that situation occurs, you automatically go into it. And what I'm hearing, if I apply this to Helen's reading an email, is that if you're in Toastmasters, you are taught to respond every time. Commend, recommend, commend. So if you get an email in, your reply is kind of like issuing feedback to that email. Thank you for your email.
You're a
right?
Nice day.
Right. I appreciate you sharing your concerns with me. Right? And then you go into what the concerns are, and then at the end of it, you say, I eagerly await your response or whatever. Yeah. So if you can have an automated reply when that email comes in that you don't really want to get, but you know you're going to get it, right, at some stage, you have an automated response. I'm going to start on a positive, I'm going to address the issue or ask for more information, and then I'm going to end politely.
We actually do that. Yeah.
Thank you
But
for your
it's not
email. And my
personally
apologies for not
connecting it.
contacting you sooner.
Yeah.
Your parcel has been processed. We're still waiting for the dragon. Apparently, there's people in China that are a lot sicker than you. No, we didn't say that. That was the one we wrote, and so should we? Yeah, no. All right, good conversation.
I'm just wondering if, because like you're dealing with all those imported Chinese products, if you have a little disclaimer at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Right, if you start feeling unwell within the next 14 days, right, please contact us, for information about coronavirus.
We have had one or two going, can I cancel my order because it's coming from China?
Yeah, and they're scared they're going to get viruses.
So is that then, you take the analogy of the army and martial arts and what you talk about, the starter courses and stuff like that, then if you apply that into your business, is building resilience in your business then is about drilling. It's about doing what you can do well and drilling that day in, day out in your staff, so your business is resilient to change that comes.
Your coaching is quite important. And your coaching is how you actually get it going.
Not only coaching though side of it for that personal development, but just the things that you do. So property management, you do it every day, day in, day out, and could be constantly analysing it. So you're effectively drilling it and training how to manage expectations of customers and what happens in the properties and stuff. And every time you're drilling that, you're making your whole business more resilient around a change that may happen in the property industry or a new thing that suddenly appears from a customer, because you've drilled that with your staff again and again and again. And so that you're so focused, your business can react to various scenarios, like you're saying, with different scenarios that have occurred.
It's been fluid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the resilience of the business potentially is actually about drilling what you do. What is the service or the product that you offer and your staff offer, and then what is their job, and making sure that they are drilling that all the time to deliver the best on any scenario that possibly comes along.
Fiona?
I was just going to say about creating, I guess for me it's creating that environment where the resilience is easier, I guess, because when I first started my business I was married to somebody who didn't support like I have now, so creating that environment where the people around you and your business can be resilient, and the people that are supporting you on your side, I guess.
Heading in the same direction.
Heading in that same direction, and actually making sure that the whole package, I guess, whether it be your actual business and the people that are around you and the closest people are on board, and it actually support you, and your business can support you as well. It's kind of having that holistic, I guess, thing around it. It's not just the business and the way that you work it and the systems you have. It's about having that whole package.
So we've got a bit of an oxymoron going on at the moment, because I've sold, I think we've got about 100, I've got 180 orders outstanding, and you've probably got about the same.
About 95.
So we've got the money, it's in the bank account, we've ordered the product, they've taken our money for it, and now we're waiting for people to dispatch the goods. And every day we look at the email and it's, oh no, that's a new person. So it's sort of a funny place to be. But it doesn't bother me at all, because I've worked out a strategy, worst scenario, and that's how I look at things. So I'm thinking, well, if we have to give all the money back, we've still got the orders that have been done now are actually starting to work as per normal. So we've all got that, but the backlog isn't clearing. So I'm saying, well, we've still got jobs coming in, so we'll just give the money back if we have to. But because we've still got money in, we're going to have a month of no money coming in or no profit, but we'll break even. That's not, we can live with that. So that's how we built a strategy around being not worried about it.
I had a thought today, and I had this thought driving past Hagley Park on the way here this morning, and I thought it was had no application to today at all. But I can see where this is going. It actually possibly has. So I want you to consider that you are playing softball and you have a glove here. Now your glove is resilient, and your hand will flex as the ball can't with yours won't. But so when we run our businesses, we are experiencing, this thing happened and that thing happened and that thing happened, all right, and they're all there, and so the ball comes in there, right, and we're catching it and we're having to deal with it, And the more balls that come in, right, the more we know how to deal with them. But what I was thinking about, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who try to have a business that is so broad ranging and their potential customer base is so wide and huge that you deal in chocolates, you deal in managing property, etc., right? And it's all of the questions and issues that we're going to get are in a direction. But there are people out there who are trying to start businesses.
It's a big park.
The curveballs throwing in could come from any direction at all. And I think that the thing, right, I've never been in the army, right, but I imagine, right, if you're in the army, you've worked out what your job is in the army. When I was working with people who stutter, I know exactly what is going to come up on those courses. But some people running businesses out there, right, that problems could come in from any direction at all. And you're having to have literally eyes in the back of the head, which is impossible. And I think that if anybody is listening to this podcast, if you create a business, create a narrow, simple, definable business, and you will be able to work out how you need to work, and you will experience the issues that you can manage. Because if you try to start a business which is too big, you just, right, in terms of what we were talking about at the start of this conversation, you may plug on for years and years and years and years, and you go, next year it's going to happen, next year it's going to happen. It's probably never going to happen because some ideas are too big.
I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is when you're an entrepreneur, you're a one-man band, but when you're in the army and you cut your finger, what would you do? What did you do, James?
Medic.
Yeah. So you had
Someone
a
else
department
does
for
it.
everything. So yeah, and when you're working for yourself, you don't have a department for everything. You're the one-man band. And obviously we're not used to being a medic, so we had to figure out how to put a band-aid on with toilet paper. Anyway, okay, so we've got 6 minutes before it's 10:30. You guys had a good week, I hope. Yeah, I've had quite a nice week. It's a nice group, this. It's a good solid group. So how do I get you here every week, eh? Hey. Do I have to give you money?
Yeah.
Okay. All right then, I'll give you $2 each. Yeah.
You've got what this is?
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
here's
bother
the
me.
thing, you know,
Yeah.
but you normally ask us about takeaways.
Yes.
Okay? And for me, the takeaway that's come out of this morning is that in actual fact, to help us with our resilience, we need to help both.
Oh, 10 points.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's, and if you want to talk about why we come back here, and your favourite word around us is community, and we come back to get that exposure, to have the other people to help us in situations where we need to be resilient. So hope is the answer.
I think I did say can we share resilience, and I really mean it. If you need a hand or there's something going on, get some people out there who do care, and that's a really powerful thing. So yeah, that's a good takeaway. So community, village people, YMCA. Okay, I can't see. Takeaways, anyone else?
As Chris said, it's how you react to the situation, to how resilient you are, I guess. So it's the reaction.
Maybe a drill could be a good idea. Think about your vulnerabilities in your business. It's been nice for Helen and I a bit more money in lately, so I'm not so worried about the money so much at the moment. But then, that's changed things quite a lot, really. It also changed my focus on Elite 6, which was rather trying to make this my main income stream. It's now a joyful part of my business. It's something I look forward to doing this meeting. So, that's changed the perspective. But can we diversify in something we do? Nigel, I don't have people. I trust you.
Thank you. I like the idea of a three-legged stool. It's a model I tend to use often. And for me, the three-legged stool here is resilience. Sits on instinct, environment, and support. And that's kind of the three things that I've seen come together here.
Because if you didn't have a three-legged stool, it would be... we sold something, Helen.
Take one away.
It would be a pair of stilts, wouldn't it?
That's just a model I like to use.
$12.90.
Rich.
That's what I'm selling this, yeah. And they're paid by PayPal. No, really good. So what next week? Where did we go with this, and what would be a nice topic to discuss next week? I suppose that's a good topic. Fiona's got some chocolates here, by the way, which I'm dying to get because she has vegan, gluten-free chocolates, which I can eat. Rude. So most chocolates don't run away. But a topic for next week: resilience, perseverance. Nick's been quiet this week. Need a hug? Jason? Oh. Tried that already, didn't I? Yeah.
What about, it's a similar subject, but what about discipline?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because we sort of crept into that a few times, and this resilience comes down to discipline, and discipline is through training, and training means you can do things
Yeah, I like that.
without thinking, through instinct.
Yeah.
So discipline in the business,
Yeah.
how does discipline fit into
Yeah,
your
and
business?
it's like it's Valentine's Day today, and we found a lounge suite, and we bought a washing machine, and I thought, yeah, that doesn't sound right. And Helen said to me last night, can we afford to buy the lounge suite? And I said, it's half price. We go half. She said, it's great. But when you're in business and I've got money in the bank, then all of a sudden you think, oh, we spend it. And a mate of mine, Steve, who does the watches, he's just bought himself a new electric car, and he's now getting a sign written. And he just spends money all the time. And I said, Steve, open a bank account. Whatever you're going to spend on the sign writing, put it in the bank account. And because I've seen this guy get $300,000 for a business he built up in a year and spend it like it was water. And I get him. I understand why he does it. He just likes, hustling. And I said, do something different, save some money. And that's where discipline, like saving. James has always given me a pat in the back. We're still going to buy the lounge suite. It's got a Valentine's Day has a 40% sale off it. But I'm usually,
I money in the bank, and then I got my GST bill yesterday.
Oh yeah, I've got to work mine out. But that's all part of discipline, isn't it? Not being silly with business. And you see a lot of people who get into businesses earlier on, they get all this money and then they get into tax debt and they wonder why, because they didn't put the money away for tax. Yeah. All right, I like that. So discipline, and a business discipline. It sounds a bit dress up for that one, guys. Hey, by the way, I'll stop the podcast so I can waffle. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening, hello.
Goodbye.
Remember to share this. Click share. Have show of hands who's actually listened to the podcast live. There's room for potential. Everyone had their hand up, didn't they? All right, thank you.
Was being here
We listened to it live because we were here. We did it because we were here.
Well, I actually listened to this back before I do the show again, because I get so many things out of it. Like this week's topic was because you said about the topic last week was mentioned, so I went back to the last 10 minutes of last week's and listened to it until I thought it sounded like we needed to talk about resilience. Yeah, all right, thanks for listening.